morning. Thank you for joining us on this Labor Day weekend. And this is my 14th week to be here. The summer is past and fall is upon us. And I hope you're preparing for a happy fall, even though summer's been kind of stressful. Things are going to get better. I promise it's going to get a little better. We thank you for joining Alpine Baptist Church for worship on this Labor Day weekend. I want you to prepare by listening to the preludes entitled Awake, Awake to Love and Work. Thank you, Kathy. What a wonderful way to begin. Awake, awake to love and work. Now, this time our scripture reading is going to be read by Carolina Head, one of our young adults. And we hope more and more young adults will become more actively involved in the church, particularly when we open things up. Today I'm preaching to the pews again, but we're going to open sooner or later. So Carolina, if you'll come read the scriptures, we appreciate it.
Today's first reading is from John chapter 9, verses 1 through 5. It reads, "And Jesus passed, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." And the second reading is from Colossians chapter 3, verses 22 through 24, and it reads, "Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. And whatsoever ye do, do it in heartily, as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that of the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ." Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. Now we want you to stand together and let's sing. Now it says when we get back together, we're not going to be able to sing. Somebody said when we get back together, we're not going to be able to sing. That's going to be, we need to sing. So we want you to stand, and this is an old hymn. My wife said when she sang it, she had not seen that since she was in the Baptist church years ago, and it's entitled To the Work. The first stanza goes, to the work, we are servants of God. Let us follow the path that our Master has trod. With the balm of his counsel, our strength to renew, let us do with might what our hands find to do. Toiling on, toiling on, toiling on, toiling on. Let us hope, let us watch and labor. How long? Till the Master comes. Golden oldie from back in the day. I can remember as a kid singing that quite often in the Baptist church I grew up in. One of my favorite singers is Roy Orbison. Do you remember the song, Working for the Man? The first verse goes something like this. Hey, you better listen to me, every one of you. We got a lot of work to do. Forget about your woman and that water can. Today we're working for the man. On this Labor Day weekend, let me remind you that work is honorable and noble and exalting. We spend a huge chunk of our lives working, trying to make a living. In fact, I read somewhere that someone has done a study that we work at least 125,000 hours. I think a lot of us work longer than that, because that translates into a little over 40 years. For the workaholic, I'm sure they work quite a few more hours than 125,000. I know I did. This morning, though, I want to focus on two aspects of work. Before I do that, it's interesting, isn't it, that it's somewhat ironic that on this Labor Day we celebrate work by not working. We just play. I just find that ironic. Well, first of all, work carries the dignity of biblical support. Now, God created us to live according to a work-rest cycle. And that's a hard cycle to keep in balance, though. He says in Genesis, he worked 6 days and rested on the seventh. Well, work is an integral part of life and has been for most of us. Some of you, a lot of you who listen to this or watching this may have already retired, but we can still keep on working. God created us to work. He created us to work just like he created the birds to fly. It's a part of who we are. And it's high time we expel the age-old myth that work is somehow a curse. This belief goes back to the Garden of Eden. And it holds that work or labor is a product of the fall. That's not the case. That Adam and Eve, from the very beginning, God told them to work and tend the garden. And there are many people who believe they have to work because of the curse of sin. That's just not so. Look at what the Bible says. That's important in studying the Bible. Look at the context. Genesis is teaching us that Adam's responsibility included working the garden. Before sin and before the curse of sin were ever mentioned in chapter 3, God instructed him to subdue the earth and have dominion over the creation, and to dress and keep the garden. That sounds like work to me. Well, Adam's sin caused a change in his nature rather than a change in how he viewed life and work. You know, idleness was never intended to be the way of life in Eden. Furthermore, biblical support is found in the New Testament. Paul commanded the church at Ephesus not to steal, chapter 4, verse 28 of Ephesians, not to steal, but to work honestly. And then, from a book I'm going to preach from next week, Thessalonians, the Thessalonian Christians, he told them, don't feed those people who are just sitting around doing nothing, who are just waiting for the Lord to come back. They've decided they're just going to isolate somewhere and wait for the Lord to come back. He said, don't feed them. If they get hungry enough, they'll get back busy, maybe. I just find that interesting. Idleness is condemned in the Bible, and industry is praised. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Listen to what he says, the writer of Proverbs says. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider his ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer, no lord, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers the food at harvest. Interesting. A healthy but lazy Christian who does not work diligently and honestly demeans the influence he has as a believer. I'm trying not to get off on a tangent here. Anyway, Paul worked. Jesus was a carpenter. When God chose people, he didn't choose people who were just sitting around. Think about Moses. He was out tending sheep in Horeb, and he'd been doing it for 40 years. Then you got Gideon, who was threshing wheat, although he was hidden and afraid of the Midianites, and God called him while he was busy. He said, Gideon, I got a job for you to do. You got to get an army and go against the Midianites. And Gideon got 32,000, and God whittled it down to 300, but that's another story. Then you got Elisha plowing 12 yoke of oxen. Now to me, that sounds like a lot of work if you're trying to plow 12 yoke of oxen. Peter and Andrew and James and John, they were all fishing when Jesus came along the seashore and called them. Another Old Testament prophet, Amos, he was tending sheep and taking care of sycamore fig trees when God called him. And like I said, as Paul was a tent maker, Jesus was a carpenter. Work, whatever it may be said about work has the dignity of biblical support. God ordained work, and he ordained it for our own good. I can't really imagine just sitting down most of the time or playing all the time or spending all my money just on me until I get old and don't care anymore. Because it's ordained work for our good and that of society, not to stop, but to keep on going. I want to be working, doing something productive when the night comes from work. We can work a lot. I am forever grateful that my dad, he had some ways, but one of the things he instilled in me was a healthy work ethic. Even before I was 12 years old, I had a lawnmower and was out cutting grass around town for $1.15 an hour. And I remember one story. The next summer, I raised it to $1.25. And Miss Mabry, God bless her, and her yard was so hard to cut. It had tree roots all in it. And she got really upset because I added a dime the next summer. And my mother had to go talk to her. And, you know, Miss Mabry just added up, got to get some gas and all. He's got 3 expenses. So she understood. But I found that interesting. Then I had a bicycle since I was about 7 or 8. And so I got a paper route. And for several years, every day. Of course, mine was afternoon, except on Sunday. And it was real early on Sunday, but other days I delivered papers in the afternoon. So I got a work ethic that helped me go into college, and I worked all through those 4 years of college. And I didn't get hardly any support from home because my dad really couldn't afford it. And so I worked all those 4 years. I didn't have any scholarships. My ACT score wasn't nearly high enough to get a scholarship, so I didn't have any resources for my scholarship. So I worked, and have worked all my life. I want to add something else here. We're not called just to work here on earth. Think about this for a minute. We who are Christians, we're looking forward to an existence in which it says, an eternal existence, that we serve God. And I don't really know what all that means. If you're not working and serving God right now, some reason that I want to think, if you're not a vital part of God's church there's really no way you're going to enjoy heaven. Think about that. Why would you want to go somewhere and serve God if it's not happening here? Too many folks have this dreamed up notion that heaven is going to be an eternal morning of sleeping late. Just roll over, turn the clock off, and get up when you get ready because you've got nothing to do. Oh, they think they're just not going to be able to do anything in heaven. No, don't think that's true. Or maybe if they do get up, have a little energy, they'll float around for a while on a cloud. Just kind of float. And then if they're really energetic, they'll put on those wings and they'll fly around heaven just checking things out. Some people really believe that it's going to be heaven. Not just have anything to do in particular. Many appear to be looking forward to eons of eternity, in which there are no demands made on us whatsoever. I don't think so. If that's your attitude, I think you should probably turn in your celestial union card and hang up your holy halo. Okay? Listen, the Bible makes no such claims and paints no such picture. We're not going to be carried to the skies on flowery beds of ease for a life of meaningless existence. Listen to what John says in the Revelation. Therefore are they, meaning God's redeemed, before the throne of God, and they serve him day and night in his temple. Revelation 7:15. The redeemed serve God. Ongoing activity, meaningful labor and existence, continuing something and contributing something, having a satisfaction. It comes through knowing one has made and is making a significant contribution. So, work has the distinction or the support, has biblical support. Secondly, now work calls for dedication to God's church. I'm kind of flipping the page here. Secular work is one of the main ways we serve God, and how well we do that plays a key role in how we demonstrate our relationship to the world, our relationship to God. I remember when I was in seminary, for a few months I worked at Red Ball Motor Freight. It wasn't far from the seminary. And so they loved to get the seminary guys over there because they could trust us. Some of those workers down there, they couldn't trust, particularly when a load of liquor came in. I remember one night, a load of liquor came in and they put me unloading that truck. Thousands of pounds of liquor. I was totally exhausted. It smelled like it when it was all over. But they wouldn't have put one of their regular workers out there, and you know why? They would have gotten some of that liquor. Paul's word to the slaves that we had read a while ago in Colossae provides guidance on how to approach secular work and be a positive witness to the power of the gospel. Listen to what he says. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. You can also find this in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 5 through 8. The text from John's Gospel that we are kind of moving into that area now, the text from John's Gospel. I want to use this moment in time to not only celebrate secular work, but to really call for more workers to step up to the plate and be counted here at Alpine. I know there's a lot of faithful secular workers out there, but we need more faithful workers here. That's one of my desires to see. This Labor Day weekend, I want to use this moment when we celebrate secular work to call for more workers here. In fact, every weekend should be viewed as a time to honor the privilege of doing God's work together. Think for a moment. Think for a moment. When your life ends, and it will, when your life ends, how many hours will you have worked for the Lord? How many hours have you been faithful to the ministry of this church? Sadly, what I learned the 10 years I was a pastor, and since I've tried to keep up, for most Baptist churches, only about 20% of the members carry more than 80% of the load when it comes to the time they give, the talents and the abilities they have, and the resources or the treasures that they have. I suspect this holds true here. In fact, I asked the church clerk, Kathy Ryan, I said, Kathy, how many members exactly do we have here at Alpine? And she texted me back and said 99. 99 members on the road. So all you got to do is just do the math and realize that the participation here is probably maybe 25%. More than 2,000 years ago, Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he said something like this: the harvest is plentiful, the work is plentiful. Got a lot of work to do, but the laborers are few. Pray the Lord of the harvest that there will be more workers. Matthew 9:37. In the first church I served in Bogalusa, Louisiana, 1976, I was on fire for the Lord. When I got there, I wanted to find out how many members there were in the church. There were 200, about 200 members. Well, in Sunday school, we might have 70, 80, maybe on a good Sunday, 90. Not many more in worship. And I thought that I could go out there and get everybody active back in the church. And it wore me completely out. It was one of the most frustrating and discouraging things I had ever tackled. In fact, this church had grown from a little group to 200 in just 12 years. Now listen, when I attended their 50th anniversary 6 years ago, 2014, there were less than 50 people who participated in the 50th anniversary of that church. And I started wondering this week in preparing this message. I wondered if there would be any active members around when the church reaches its 100th year in 2064. Will the doors of that it's a beautiful little A-frame church, all wood, right in the fork of a road, Varnado Highway, and the other, I can't remember the name of it now. Pine trees all around, different colors on the doors of the educational building. Beautiful little church. So many smaller churches are closing their doors or choosing maybe to just meet once a month, which is just one step away from closing the doors. Now, I want to say it up front, we're not going to do this, but what if we were to announce a meeting for next Sunday night? With the only item on the agenda is whether we're going to vote to go ahead and just close the doors of the church attendance is dwindling, money's going down, numbers are not good. Just admit we do not have the energy or the desire to get involved in doing what's needed to keep the ministry vibrant and productive. There would be a vote taken that night, and those who vote no would be saying, keep the doors open. Those who voted yes, turn out the lights. And listen to this, we have to do this now. The members not present would automatically be counted as a yes vote and added to the outcome. I got to think, what would be the result of that? What would be the vote, so to speak? Because whenever you're absent, you vote to close the doors. I mean, that's just natural and normal. You vote to close the doors if you're not here, if you're not interested in what's going on here. Let's just turn out the lights. In just 12 years, this church has a unique opportunity. This church has the opportunity to celebrate 200 years of uninterrupted ministry that does not include any splits or anything really bad in its history. Man, there are not many churches out there that can do that. What an incredible achievement. But we are an aging group of people, and those 12 years will surely have some kind of impact, a significant impact, on who will be around to attend. And come to think about it, I'll be 85 years old, living 180 miles from here. I don't know if I'm going to have the ability to get on back up here, because I'd want to be here for that 200 the bicentennial, I guess what you call it, celebration of the church. 85. You know, I know some of you may be uncomfortable with what I've just said, and you may be feeling a little anxious about the future of the church during this interim time, particularly with the added confusion and uncertainty related to the novel coronavirus. Well, I read a troubling quote off a church sign as we drove up here. I think it was somewhere between Ozark and Troy or Brundage. I'm not sure where it was, but it said this: the longer we miss church, the less we miss church. The longer we miss church, the less we miss church. You understand what I'm saying? For the 25% I mentioned earlier, that statement probably is not true yet. I am concerned about this extended time of closure, but I am so glad that we've begun meeting on Sunday night outside, taking all the preliminary precautions and all that. We're meeting in person to worship, and there's been a kind of a uplifting spirit, if you will, shared by those who have attended. And this bodes well for when we do return to this building in which that I'm in right now, when we return on Sunday morning. As your interim minister, you didn't know something about me. I have 3 goals, really. Just 3 goals. That's a good biblical number, 3. 3 and 7, I like those 2 numbers. The primary goal is the desire to preach biblically based sermons that address individual needs and the needs of the larger church body. Because I believe, and I've already preached on the power of the gospel, I believe that the message of the word is positive and powerful, and when proclaimed consistently, it makes a difference. I remember one of my professors at seminary, Dr. John Owen Strange. I asked him, I said, man, I got so many problems with this church. I don't know which priest it is. He said, just preach the word the best you understand it and let God take care of the rest of it. I wish I had learned that lesson, because I really got worn down trying to find that other 120 people out there. Secondly, I want us to make a concerted effort to involve more of those 99 members whose names are still on the church roll. And I urge those of you who are listening to me now who are really concerned about the future of the church to make an extra effort to reach out to those for whatever reason they may feel now that Alpine is no longer their home. Or maybe they found another home and we just need to know that. Maybe just a word of genuine interest, a word of encouragement, a word that communicates, I care about you. Not, why ain't you been coming to church? No, don't do that. Let people know that we really care about them. Don't try to drive Baptist. Oh my goodness. Third, let's really get serious about making prayer a priority every day. I mean, you can pray going down the road, you can pray where you work, you can stop momentarily and just look to the heavens or close your eyes for a moment and just thank God for whatever it is you're able to do that particular day. Tonight's message is entitled Prayer is the Key from Ephesians 6:18 through 20. It's the final message in the series of 7 messages on the armor of God. In fact, it's going to be part 1 tonight and part 2 next Sunday night. I hope you'll participate. Hey, please, listen to me, every one of you. We got a lot of work to do. We're working for the Lord. Night is coming, Jesus said, when no one can work. You know, we only have a small window of opportunity. Every moment of life is precious and must not be wasted. You know, I'm thinking how fast these 14 weeks have passed. It seemed like I was just here a week or 2 ago preaching on bloom where you were planted. I think that was the first sermon. There's a very old story told of a lonely plowman. He was out in the field all alone plowing. He looked up on the horizon and he saw a huge crowd in the distance. They were kicking up a lot of dust. And he stopped and watched them for a minute. And then you heard their voices. They cried, "Quick! Quick! Leave what you're doing. Follow us. The world is coming to an end." The old man paused for a moment, thought about what they'd said, and then he just shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Whether the world is coming to an end or not, I do not know. But in the meantime, I have plowing to do." Now, we as Christians believe Jesus is coming back. Some people are thinking it's going to be tomorrow night or next week. We don't know when that's going to be. Maybe soon. But until that time comes, we have a lot of plowing to do. Dear Lord, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to do the plowing. We thank you for the opportunity through the years to have a secular job, contributing to the life of the world and kids and businesses. And we thank you for you